Hi, I'm Anthony Orr, a member of BMC CTO office and an itil author. I'm back again with Sharon Taylor, President of the Aspect Group and Chief Architect of itil version 3. Welcome back again, Sharon.
Thanks, Anthony.
Glad to have you here. In this video segment, we're going to talk about the management aspects of service operations and how you can manage service operations for more value within the organization. Sharon, as we think about service operations, and this is where sort of everything comes together, what are your thoughts about managing service operations, from a higher performing perspective?
I think that truly this is, we talk about the fact that the service operations stage of the life cycle is really where the rubber meets the road. It's what the customer sees. It's where the customer interacts with us the most. It's where they get their experience of how good or how bad we are. And so essentially, if you think about the entire service life cycle, it's the heartbeat. And everything that happens within service operation affects the outcome, both in terms of cost to the customer, how well we do something, or how well we are perceived to do something as a service provider. If we took a step back and looked at the life cycle, and the service strategy part of the life cycle is really the DNA. It's where we lay out the blueprint of what it is we're going to do to enable business outcomes. And if you know and have read anything about service strategy, that's a key concept throughout the book. So I call that, the DNA part. And when it comes to service design, that's really where we're monitoring the blood pressure of the patient, for example. We're making sure that the systems are functioning and things are working intricately, the balance is there, the demand and availability and all of those things are there. When it's too high, there are warning signs. When it's too low, and we're designing that in to make sure, we're building that perfect being, that, that's what we're doing there. Transition is really about creating the environment that will enable that being to be healthy and to function as in service operations. So it's, the testing and tweaking and all of that stuff. And then of course we get to service operation, and that's where it all happens. And that's where the customer all realizes that. We too often underestimate, or we have in the past too often underestimated the value service operation brings to the table from a strategic standpoint. We tend to say ops is ops, and in fact ops isn't just ops anymore. It's a lot more than that. The fact that everything is interwoven as part of the life cycle, that services, yes, are made up of components that we can put technological names to. It's really not about those components. It's about the thing called the service, or that healthy heartbeat, as it were. And so the things we do in service operation, the capabilities we have to monitor and to predict and to trend, test what we think we've known coming into this part of the life cycle, what we think we've designed for, what we think we've tested. And it causes us to maybe make course corrections. Maybe sometimes they're minor, maybe sometimes they're not. The fact that service operation and the experience it provides to the customer and the experience it gains just by doing, just by supporting that service, can lead to future innovations. It can lead to strategies being changed. It can lead to things being added to a service portfolio or being removed. So that it's an experiential part of the existence of any service. That's what's happening in operations. And oftentimes we just think about it as the nuts and bolts. And yeah, it is the nuts and bolts, but it's actually a lot more than that. And I think organizations who really embrace service management practices in whatever way, shape, or form they do, learn that operations has a much larger role to play than simply just executing services and keeping the lights on. It has a strategic role, it has a management role, it has an operational role, and it has an improvement role. And that's the one part of the life cycle that I did touch on in the analogy I was using. And I mean, the continual service improvement life cycle is really about preventative medicine for the patient and reactive. What do we do when? We've learned through the operation of services that there are certain things we can do to improve. That comes either through the ability to lower cost, to avoid additional risk, to mitigate risk, or just to improve quality. And that comes from operation. It doesn't just come from thin air. It comes out of the experiences that we get when as we deliver services in the service operation part of the life cycle. So it's much more than we really think about initially when you use the word operation.
Right.
And I think that realization is really coming to fruition a lot more now that innovations like cloud computing, consumerization are coming into play. Those are operational models, really. That's what they are. But they have afforded business transformation and business innovation to happen as a result. And that's a really good example of how the role of operations really is holistic and really does a lot more to deliver value at all levels than simply just the nuts and bolts and the bits and bytes.
Wow, so in service operations, this is where we get a lot of feedback, so we can really get a lot of value from the services that we deliver. So we're just not putting things out there from what we design. We're saying, hey, wait a minute, the customer asked for this, but based on their patterns of business activity and their usage and everything else, and the things we can see as IT, we can really enable something better than what they really asked for.
Yeah.
So this is when we sort of get into being more collaborative with our customer too, and giving them feedback, saying, hey, you asked for this, but look at the metrics, look what's actually happening, as it relates to the services that we delivered and the way we're supporting them for you. This is how we can make you better, so we can become more trusted advisors for IT and add a lot more value than just saying, hey, that's what you asked for, this is what you get, so don't worry about it. We gave you what you want, and we really want to get away from that type of attitude, right?
Well, so. I know your viewers will probably be familiar with the itil version 3 graphic that depicts the service life cycle, in which service strategy rests at the center and the stages of the life cycle revolve around that. Well, in fact, you could probably turn that on its ear. Not that I'm suggesting we do that, just so we get that out in public. But if you think about it, we talk about business relationship management. It's a process within service strategy. That's where it resides officially as part of the guidance. But where does it happen? It happens in operations. And so from that perspective, if you were to think about the integral role that all of the processes around the life cycle support what's happening in operations. There's numerous examples. Business relationship management is just one of those. But it brings home the fact that service operation has tentacles out into every part of the life cycle. Right. It has value to provide in every part of the life cycle. It has intelligence to be gained and brought back into service operation from other parts of the life cycle. So it really is an integral part. The fact that that's where the customer experience comes from and is formed from has everything to do with how the life cycle functions and the decisions that get made within that in terms of governance and even design, right down to design elements. So it's a very critical part, and I think we are learning how to exploit that much better than we have in the past. Rather than keeping our service desk in the dark and our operational tiers behind a wall somewhere, they are really interacting with the customer on a day-to-day basis about the experiences of service quality, and taking that back and using it throughout the life cycle to improve and to reinvent and in some cases transform business opportunity and business successes.
Wow, great. Yes, a lot of times we talk about evolution and transformation of IT, and it really sort of begins, of course, from a CSI perspective, when you want to continuously improve stuff, but really based on what you're delivering sometime, unless it's sort of a greenfield type environment. So you can evolve, you can improve your current processes, or you can transform based on customer needs and say, hey, we need to do something differently in operations quickly, like a cloud solution, for example, and deliver better value to them immediately. Yes. So, wow. Thanks again, Sharon. This was great. So, can't wait to the next video series. So, thank you all too. So, for more information on BSM and service operations and how cloud computing can help you operate better and so forth, visit us at bmc.com. And thanks again.